Good stuff. Right, thanks everyone for joining us. Episode 5 of Voices of Vintage. We've got a new member of the club, so to speak. Although some people might recognise him already, he's a bit of an old head. He's been in the game for a long time. Seems to be one of the busiest guys in vintage. So without further ado, why don't you give us an introduction to yourself, Spencer?
Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time everyone's watching it. Yeah, my name's Spencer. I'm the founder, director, CEO of Gully Garms. And I've been for the last 12 years working in a family capacity business, sustainable secondhand, and working in vintage online. The big thing to probably notice about me is one of the things that I focus on now is how I closed my business and had to reopen it with the new sort of scopes I've taken. I'm sure we will go down the rabbit holes of all of them individually. But yes, my name's Spencer. I'm 31 and I run Gully Garms.
That's brilliant. So you've been doing this from a really early age then? 12 years.
Soon as I'd have done it for longer than I hadn't, which is quite a mad perspective to even think about. 3 years away from that.
That's amazing. I first found you, must be on, I think it was on YouTube.
Really?
Or was it TikTok? I can't remember which one, but one of the things I first found you interesting about was when you were making videos teaching us how to do better pictures, how to sell better online, Depop, doing things like that. Not just the sourcing videos, which has now come like second nature to you. You must be shopping in charity shops. Yeah. So how did that come about? Because I think a lot of people have learned from that type of thing.
Honestly, Xander, to be honest with you, one of the biggest pivotal points was closing a brand that I'd had so much attachment to for what I'd done for so long. And I guess realizing that I'd been a clothing caterpillar to this brand that I'd built, put on a pedestal, been faceless for so long. And the sort of humbling of having to close it and reopen it made me think, what is it that I like to do? And one thing I did before Gully, I used to do YouTube. So I'd be telling people what I had for breakfast, like a vlogger, no word of a lie. So the sort of on-camera presence has just been something that's like second nature. And then, if I'm being totally honest, humbled me so massively that I sort of found this inner meditative Zen-like mindset that probably people either get annoyed by or see regularly on the internet. And it just made me think, what sort of resonates with me? And it's building a community. It's helping other people that didn't, I didn't get that sort of perspective when I started out. I just started it at university. And then all of a sudden I'm having to employ someone whilst I'm doing a degree. Like I'm trying to do one thing and I'm doing that. So I can totally get how a lot of this can get taken away from people. And before you know it, you don't even think about the item of clothing. It's how to take the photo. It's where to get it. I wanted to give people a fun way of consuming that kind of education rather than it being in that typical sense of here's what I buy, here's what it costs. It's just like, no, you guys can do this too. And it's not a get rich quick scheme, but it's a way to in my eyes, the carboot way, just make it fun. Make it fun.
Yeah. That's the first thing I noticed about you. It's the mindset. You're really motivated and positive person. Whereas some videos you watch, they're a bit negative and saying, oh, don't do eBay anymore. But you always see the good side of everything. That was for me, I would watch you whilst I was working and it motivated me.
Somebody said that before. I think someone said, even with the podcast one, because I'll be honest with you, most people that listen to podcasts, you're probably watching the pods right now. You're probably doing the listing yourself whilst listening to this because it's like good background noise. Like not everybody has the ability to watch it, but they like to consume it. And yeah, I like being a part of and making content where it feels like you can be like I'd like to say a calming background sound to give you some perspective. Yeah.
So let's go back to the beginning then. You were at university. I'm assuming you're not using anything you learned at university for the job anymore.
Well, Xander, I'll be honest with you. I don't know why I point like that. I think I'll be honest with you. I think because I did production of media, it was all Instagram, editing, photography, and all this. But the backstory of me is I did YouTube before this, making. If you've ever seen, this might be a very bespoke reference, but people that know Ray William Johnson on the internet, it's like the TikTok before TikTok. Here's a funny video, Harry Hill kind of inspired. And it was just me reacting to that. So I'd had a lot of experience with editing hundreds of videos by the time I was 14, 15. And I went to university, to be honest with you, because my dad was a bit like, you got to go and do something, mate. You can't just hope that the clothing stuff works in a sort of sense. So going to uni was helpful for that, but it was the photography element for shooting models, the editing for creating concept. To be honest with you, that sort of 3 years of doing it enabled me to keep motivated by that metric.
Yeah. So by the time you were setting up your business with clothing, it was second nature, it was natural on camera. It kind of makes sense. You are very natural on camera. There's no fakery. There's no special lighting. You kind of, it's just a day in the life of, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think that's one of the points I think people might not ask, but I think is interesting, is being interested by the clothing wasn't actually my initial interest. It was being interested by finding cool people that could wear clothing and creating like picture concepts of it. So going out on a night out and like getting a bit drunk and going to someone and going, oh, I want you to be a model. Next day we're doing a couple shoots and I'm getting to meet people. So it was actually fused by just the creative potential more so in the beginning than it was like the clothing curiosity, to be honest.
So shortly after university, you'd set up your business, and were you straight into that warehouse space you've got?
I actually already had a premises before I finished university. So I started it. When I started in 2012. Oh my Lord, that's so long ago. 2012 started, and then in that first year, because I only went to De Montfort in Leicester, lived at home, practical, affordable, going to and from buses, it was the sort of in between lectures, charity shops and things like that. And I didn't know that what I was onto was something so untapped. I mean, at the time, you could go on eBay and find vintage Nike sweaters for 99p on auctions. People didn't know what they had that they were selling. And to be honest with you, again, it still came down to, I didn't know what I was buying or selling. I actually was just doing it for the creative aspect. And I think that curiosity of creativity spiraled with like, wow, working out.
Yeah. And then, because I think one of the immediate things people notice about your content, obviously you do a lot of it, but when you get back to your space, your kind of warehouse space, it looks big and professional. Probably, I would assume that lots of people are aspiring to get a nice big space like that. There's several rooms, isn't there? And you're lucky enough to work with. You're lucky enough to work with your mum as well, which is nice.
Some people might say that's unlucky, though. One of the biggest dynamics, I've worked with my mum for almost 10 years, and one of the biggest challenges you have, I mean, I used to live at home with the person that I would employ, and there's that mum and son dynamic, and then boss to employee, and it's not always been smooth. Before I jump to that, though, the warehouse thing, I find I kind of like the idea of it, but also I think people can sometimes look at that and forget a lot of things. Like, you can see that in a bit of a social media, like tinted glasses, and you think that's what to aspire to. The reality is I don't own it. I pay a lot to have it. For me, it's a space to assume what I do, but also 12 years of doing it, I've figured out how to do things efficiently and sustainably.
Yeah. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I thought it was brilliant recently how you did your own kilo sale in that space. Yeah, I thought it was great.
We did, and honestly, the 3 kilo sales were. I guess what? Would you think that a weekday was better than a weekend for a kilo sale?
I wouldn't know, but you
might
smashed it.
Yeah, the weekday ones, crazy. And I'll be honest with you, these aren't the first ones we've done. We used to do them a couple years ago in a different capacity. So when Gully was like in its closing phase and I had to like accrue cash, we did the kilo to sort of offset some of those bits. So the Gully Garms warehouse, where it had all the rails siphoned off, people were shopping through that. Now it's like an understood system. Like, people like kilo sales, but you don't really seem to find an affordable one anywhere. So that's why we thought £7.50, it's a bit incompetable.
It's a good deal, isn't it? I remember actually Mark from Pre-Loved. I remember when he was about 12 quid, and now I think they're about 25 quid. But people will still pay it. So your £7, it's a great deal.
It's a great deal. And to play total devil's advocate, and not to be like this sort of like angel on both sides, but I totally get the inflated perspective of prices, because what people are selling is like a depleted source, and like those that are actually sourcing it at £25 a kilo, I would trust with the expertise that I would hope they have that it's quality stuff that's worth it. What ours is it's an offcut of the stuff that people seem less desirable, like the unbranded and the older vintage. The ironic thing is, Andrew, is I think that's actually more valuable than the branded stuff people buy. And that's like one of them inverse things. Like leather jackets could probably sell for more than Umbro jackets.
Definitely. I think you're right there. Some of the nicest pieces we've ever had have been unbranded or a brand that you've never heard of before. When you do a little bit of research, they're tiny, in it, not a big professional sweatshop. But I think you're right there, definitely. I wanted to ask you about your space.
Yeah.
Because you've got several rooms.
Two buildings.
Two buildings, yeah. And have you completely filled it, or are you looking to fill it more, or?
Oh, I'm always looking to fill it. I have an obsessive compulsive disorder. You should see there's a photo from 2015 when I moved in from. So the first unit I had was probably it was about £500 a month. It was a small scope one that was like probably like most people's living room, but a little bit more extended. And then I went to one that had, about 6 months after growing out of that, 2,500 square foot of it. Square meters, not square foot. I'll get them wrong. Someone will go, "Plumber neck, it's like a football pitch." It's not that. But it's 2,500 square meters, I think. Having like a few rails, I've got a photo of how quiet it looked. 6 months fast forward, it's filled. Built a studio in there, put more clothing in there, integrated a washing and a laundrette. So the breakdown of what I've got is one building is a laundrette and it's like an overflow warehouse. And then the other one is office dispatch, warehouse and kilo event plus live stream capacity and whatever other stuff I do.
Yeah, that's so good. You've got your own laundrette place. I got told off by my wife today because she called me. I got told off by my wife today because she came in from horse riding, and I was doing a load of vintage in our personal washing machine, and she hates that.
Really?
She only likes us to use the laundrette for the business. But
so is that what you go to a laundrette and take all your stuff? Do you do it like on a weekly basis, or like do you wait till you've got enough to just sit there for an afternoon?
Almost every week we do about 3 IKEA bags. Yeah, we've got like a invoice contract system, but it costs us about $150 a month, and it's probably the same cost as doing it all at home, but they fold and dry it nicely so it doesn't need ironing. Yeah,
and you don't have to worry about having the electrics, the water, and all that sort of system. Yeah, and that's one of them things. It's like for us, we had this laundrette that was basically because obviously with Gully, when I employed Marge, she was the person that added that Kim and Aggie cleaning approach. For me, the rails weren't even organized. I just was very I knew what I wanted to do in the creative side, but the reality is you do need some balance from that creativity to have like structure, like washing the clothes, creating the laundrette. And yeah, since then, when we didn't have as much clothing to wash, I mean, we was doing a few thousand items a week, every week washing with like 6 or 7 members of staff. It was like, okay, that's changed now, but we've got still 10 machines. So we sort of thought, right, let's make this laundrette business and then work with the community. So we do salons, we do local football teams, and then people just bring trainers to clean. And it's a way for make it make sense while it's there.
Yeah, it's a nice extra income stream, I suppose, isn't it, as well? And the chances are, if they're coming to wash some items of clothes with you, they'll also show an interest in your business and buy some stuff.
It all falls under the same. It all falls under the same umbrella of it. Like as soon as most of the time, people like on a daily basis, people come to the warehouse and their first thing they walk in and they're just like look around like almost shifty because they're like they don't even know where to look at. They're like, okay, there's clothes here, but there's lots of space and there's other stuff. There's like because I've got like an infinity wall that I had my uncle built in the corner when I had to like downsize because we used to have 3 buildings and one of them was the full studio and the office where I'd have like 6, 7 members of staff, and then. My uncle was like kind enough from like an engineer perspective. He helped like build an actual like wooden infinity like corner to the wall, and there's so much in there. But a lot of people will come down and they're kind of like they've got a lot of questions before they leave.
That's cool. It's something I've always wanted for photography because I'm not happy with my photography now, but I am. Instead of making everything perfect all the time, I like.
What's your setup?
We've got an OSB. I do everything off my phone. We've got a piece of OSB because I sell a lot of outerwear like Filson and Woolwich from Patagonia. It does look good on bricks or something rustic, but we use OSB and I'm not happy with it in all fairness. We've got LED lighting, and then I got rid of the big light cannons, with the fabric squares around them just because of the space. And I've got these kind of bendy 2000 lumen LED bendable lights, and they're just as bright, but still every now and again, because we stack them high, sell them cheap and stack them high, sometimes it's quite boring just doing 50 items a week in the same space. I'm enjoying the creative side even more, if you know what I mean. Whereas you've had that with models, haven't you, and stuff in your infinity wall. And
I'll be honest, that's where I fell in love with the process, was shooting with models, and that's why it's a bit different where my entry point comes from, I guess, from others that may be clothing, which is totally fair enough. Mine's actually just the creative art. Like working with models was probably the best part of the whole process, because it's creating an image that people want to invest in, and they invest in it because you've created that. And
yeah,
I totally get the efficiency of like consistency of, like you say, flipping having this same setup where you're just going next item. You almost like get bored of seeing the items and you want to stay motivated by it. And models was good for that, because it was like, who, you know, from my perspective, it was like, who actually suits sportswear? What kind of like look suits it? Not only for that, but what will people buy into? Like there's a lot of complexities to approach, and it is simpler to like do it on a flat lay, because essentially if it's faceless, it's a disassociated product to anybody. So someone won't go, I don't look like that, why would I buy it? It's, you know, you just buy it because of that. But for me, it's just romanticizing the way it looks as a creative.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is, I suppose you sometimes look at a model and think, well, I'm not as chiseled as that dude. It's not going to suit me.
Yeah. No, I know exactly. I mean, but the thing is, for me, I mean, I am not a model, and I will say that like continuously. Yeah, I started the initial starting point was at the back of where mum and dad lived, was like, I say disused. It was a very slow steam train. You knew when it was coming, even though they put these penalty signs out as soon as they could see us on the line. But setting up a self timer, shooting a photo, taking it off, and doing that, like from the get go, I never started with a flat lay. I always started with me modeling it. And for me, I guess that was a thing for me. I like reverse engineered it. I wouldn't have bought something off somebody that wasn't wearing it, personal preference. And I really like shooting in natural light. That was one of the hardest bits, converting at the time to natural light into then an artificial in a studio. To be honest with you, I actually I was kicking up a fuss at the time when everybody was like, we can't do it outside all the time. You know, winter, it's getting darker, trying to shoot more products. And when you're in a studio, it's limitless, isn't it? It's like there's no time that you can start or stop. It's all going to look the same.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's some other good Instagrammers and that I follow who we're going to get on the podcast at some point. I'm not going to mention the names or anything, so I just want it to be all about you. But what I've noticed over the last maybe 2 or 3 months is that, because I got confused, I hearted someone's picture, and then I checked their other stuff, and I realized it wasn't the dude who I already follow and think is great, but someone else copying and making their images look almost identical. I don't know whether they've done that intentionally or it's just like subliminal. It's like, you know, they're subconsciously just doing it, but they all do look the same, kind of, if you're not careful.
Yeah, they do. And I'll be honest with you, this is one of them topics I'm happy to talk about, but the imitation is the best form of flattery. I'd mean this to come from the right way, but I guess when people copy what you do, you have to take it as like a compliment to your art form. And you have to, the most time I reacted to that, I was probably reacting in an emotional state where it's like, I'd had times going to ASOS and going, look, I'm trying different style and approaches. These people are taking the exact same. How can I distinguish? Because when you go on a platform all the same, like you say, not only are you competing with everybody else, but if everybody looks like you, people like will fall under the same traps of going, I'm sure this is the same brand. I'm sure it's all the same thing. It's under the same like house of it. I was very territorial at the time. I do think that imitation is great because I think it challenges you to home in on what you can do better. Like the minute somebody tries to adopt the same style as me, like one of the things I live by is comparison is the thief of joy. So anytime I look at somebody else and what they're doing now, it's going to take it away from what I'm putting the energy into. And I think it's separate from like giving someone their due diligence on round of applause of like, hey, well done. You created something great. But to compare what you do to somebody else, I think it's better to just stay in your lane mentally, because I think you get the best out of it.
That's interesting. Do you find yourself, because you're a busy dude, I must watch 3 videos a day from you on average?
I'm sorry. When the fun stops, just click the top button and say ignore. I get it.
You're one of the main, when I'm working in the cabin, you're one of the main ones I catch up on. Originally, TikTok wouldn't show you the next video, which really annoyed me. So I had to always go back and then watch it. Yeah, and now
as a consumer, can I just ask, how frequently does my like specky mean mug appear on your phone? Just to be totally transparent, because people will go, I'll do 3 times and you're there still.
Yeah, I mean every day, because it trends your algorithm. So if I watch you, there's a few other people I watch who you follow, and I'll watch almost everything you do. Yeah, I think
I appreciate that.
Well, it's just because it's on and it's there now, and it's something to watch. You know what it's like? We don't watch Sky TV much anymore. We're on YouTube or TikTok.
Yeah.
And there's probably the same 10 resellers, but I've got some weird hobbies as well, man. I mean, I'm thinking about buying a narrowboat. So my algorithm is
live your Rosie and Jim journey.
Almost, yeah. I mean, I was going to do that before I met my wife. I was
Okay.
close to moving into a narrowboat. It's a cheap way of living, and I like the idea of the tranquility of it all. So it was already triggered, that algorithm. I got loads of, kind of like Rosie and Jim people coming over.
No, that project, like people that have taken the jump.
Yeah, and it would have been a nightmare, to be honest with you, but the way I look at it now with the setup we've got, it definitely wouldn't work. But so there's a few like narrowboaters that pop up, and then a few resellers that pop up, including the US guys.
Hey, can I ask a question though, Xander? What about a reseller on a narrowboat? Has that actually happened yet? Have you seen that?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Although I went for a dog walk a little while back, and I don't know whether Facebook knows how to do this, but we were in some little pub this like a year ago with the missus, and we were in a pub somewhere out in the sticks. And you know how you just scrolling to see what's local on Facebook. And this amazing 80s beer house came up, and it was £5, and I just couldn't say no to it. So I sent him a message, and I was like, I'd like to come and get this whenever you're available. And he said, I'm just down the pub. And I was like, okay. And I could see he was near me because he was in my area. I said, just out of interest, what pub you at? And he was at the pub I was at drinking with the missus.
No, he didn't have it on today.
No, he didn't have it on. But I said, I'm at that pub too. Come say hello. So he came to chat to me. And then he said, my narrowboat's just around the corner. I'll go get you the jacket, hold my pint.
I'll come with you, honestly.
I know, it's such a weird... Because he thought, how does this guy know I'm at this pub? He didn't...
See, this is my mind. I was just thinking that would have been the best content video ever.
I know. Yeah, it would have been good content.
Yeah. What was the jacket like anyway? Was it worth the money and the?
It was a mirror. I don't know if you know the mirror tech beer houses from the late 80s.
By seeing them, yeah.
Like Mirror Peak, I think they're called, not Mirror Tech. It was like purple, blue with a yellow hood. They sell for about $150 if you're lucky, if they're in good condition. I can't remember even what I got for it. But and now it was battered. It needed washing, and you have to be careful in the washing machines that you with the waterproofs. But it was good.
Can I that you just made a point then that I think would be really interesting to talk about. About you battered. What's your perspective on like secondhand from where you see it? Like a lot of one of the biggest things I'm learning with a lot of people is trying to help them understand like the saving from landfill and being sustainable. Like I think people need to remember what like secondhand is as a means of it. Like, what's your take on like how you buy things based on conditions? Like, how do you what's your perspective on that?
Well, I love secondhand. I can't think of the last thing that I personally bought new. My wife, It was just my birthday, and she bought me a few new pieces from Carhartt. Just because I love them so much, I'd probably have to wait 2 or 3 years to find them secondhand. I'm not sure. But she occasionally buys me new things, which is cool, and I like that. But I don't like manufacturing. I understand consumerism, I get it. But, like these brands like Shein and Next and certain companies and Topshop, I hate the thought that they're making things with polycotton so they shrink on the seams. So they're purposely made to shrink and not last long, whereas you've got real good quality brands. And there are brands like Woolrich and Bilson and Patagonia that make something that lasts 20 years. And it kind of makes sense that, they aren't as big as the other companies, because you might buy one jacket and it might serve as a work jacket for 20 years before you need another one.
Yeah, I like that perspective though. Of the brands you mentioned, it's like anybody that's took the time to learn something like Patagonia, learning the guy who set the brand up, how he ran, you understand the person, the brains behind it. You kind of get that understanding of why the quality is there. He's somebody who was really fixated on good quality and most importantly, treating people fairly, and the whole ecosystem being about a fair right. And I think getting behind that, people could justify the price because it felt like there was a good intention to what his outlook was trying to be.
Yeah, I love that Yvon Chouinard story. His book's brilliant. But there was a time for his first 4 years as well, I read in his book, that he did an equal pay thing, because at once for about the first 4 years, he had about 15 members of staff, and they all got paid equally, even though it was his company. Whereas it's now changed, of course. He's selling his company to pay for trees to be planted. And as long as he gets £300 million per year for his family, the rest is fair game. So,
he's one of the good ones, even though he's absolutely so rich, but he's one of the good ones. He's got good intention.
Yeah. But you know, the landfill thing, I mean, there are a good example is your videos when you regularly go into a charity shop and you kind of make a tongue-in-cheek joke about the prices, and you're not taking the mick exactly, but you do it under your breath so you don't ever disgruntle the members of staff. And I like that. It's obviously the best way to do it. But when you think of like this, trying to sell a pair of night trainers for 30 quid, and they were probably 60 quid new, and they're a bit battered. But what really infuriates me about that landfill thing, that instead of just reducing them to 10 quid where they should be, or 5 quid, they'll probably send them via courier with another 200 or 300 items to another charity shop to try and sell that are a part of their group. And it's all fuel, it's all, you know, smog in the air from the extra petrol that's used, and they just need to tag it properly at the correct price. And it starts there, not just stuff that is battered and doesn't wear. Because, you know, I see you regularly buy something on Monday, and on the Tuesday video you're wearing it, and I love that. And I do think to myself, there's no way he's washed that. He just loves it. He's putting it on.
Somebody said to me this morning, they said about that Under Armour tracksuit, they said, have you washed it? And I said, no, you haven't watched my videos before. I've wore it for 5 days. I couldn't care less. It's everything's personal preference. And by being an advocate for secondhand is like, some people call me scruffy. I don't care. Like,
same.
That's like my existence. That's what I live in. But to touch on what you said then about like the landfill and the charity shops, I think one of the most important things, because you mentioned it with like Shein and Next and things like that, some brands which I know have got, there's like something like Next, like the big private limited company, it's like public limited company or whatever. It's got the right intentions with what it's trying to do, but at the same time, the main thing it's doing is mass producing a lot of stuff that's not good quality. They say that 80 to 90%, so I'm just fidgeting, this is the worst time to do it. 80 to 90% of donations are like fast fashion. And what people seem to like think is it's like, oh, you know, like the whole thing is just like, no, you just don't need to buy it. You don't need to do that anyway, but it needs to be respectfully priced in the place that it is. If I'm seeing a Primark top for 6 quid in a charity shop, put it up there, just put it all up for 10p. Like the main thing is keeping that within its circulation. And I think one of the biggest bits that puts people off is that it's not directly affordable. And yeah, I like to go into the charity shop. So somebody who's realistically used it to position my business at a point, and now I like to go there to showcase like, no, this is a sustainable way of being, but let's talk about the prices. My reactions to my face are only my reactions by what I see. It's for those that see that price to then determine like, well, £15 for a Hugo Boss t-shirt. Would you pay it in a charity shop? Or, you know, where do you sit on it? It's not to say that it's not worth £15. The argument I have with charity shops, probably a little bit different, is eBay's footfall is limitless. A shop in a random little city is limited to maybe 150 people a day. And a week.
That would be great. Yeah. That would be a good shop. Yeah. Yeah.
Like but that point of perspective, there's the one thing I don't like is, and I mean this genuinely, I'm not a confrontational sort of person with the content I'd like to pursue or like the placement I'd like to be in. So I know that there's people that like to do that. And that's honestly, mine is not the reason why. Mine is but to sell and buy. Keep my Del Boy only fools and horses saying on that. But like being in a good state of being, making content like around the charity shops that hopefully encourages people. But it comes back to that point, like you say, £30 on a pair of night trainers that are going to be 60. Like, who's the manager that's focusing too much on what price is going on for eBay and not focusing on this is actually a shop that just needs to an average game by volume basis. Let's just move items at £4 a day rather than worrying about the guy that's coming in to sell it for 20 quid on eBay. If he's going to do that, he's giving you 4 quid. I don't understand that perspective. I know that people have a problem with resellers within charity shops, and I totally get that there's like an argument for it. I don't think it sits in an ethical stance, just because if you're giving money to a charity, that's the underlying thing. It's actually giving money to a charity shop. My argument still is you should encourage resellers, because they are the people who, if it was affordable, would consistently use them.
Yeah, definitely. There's people who are spending thousands a month on charity shops, and that should be used for the cause what it's made for. But I do get the impression a lot of these big charity companies now, they've got regional managers who are coming in and dictating the prices, which is it's a bit of a shame because, like you've said, Primark, if all these brands, these cheaper brands, were just priced at £2 a piece, they would probably sell 100 items every day. There's the staff paid. And then the better items, maybe Nike's should be, okay, they're Nike, that's £10, Adidas, £10. And if they see Armani, maybe 15, or you know what I mean? Maybe there should be a tier system of some kind.
There should be. And what's the most difficult thing is that I suppose it's not difficult, it's just a reality. Every charity shop will work under their own metric of how they want to do. And I won't disclose them, but those that are more corporated sort of styles of a charity shop, to those that are you can tell that this is a little bit like, I went to one that was like, where did I go? In like Ruddington or something. It was like a Christian charity shop. It was great. It was just run by like a few older women. The prices weren't even like massively cheap. They were still like £5 to £7 on bits, but you could still get potential from it. And there was a good understanding, with them. I'm not somebody who would haggle in a charity shop. That's where I do draw the line, even though there's some argument for that. But I like finding them hidden gem spots. And
yeah.
You
do some miles as well, don't you? I know you love your car boot sales and you do a lot of charity shop as well. Do you have a preference on which would you like more?
I love car boots for the people. I love the fact that it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Somebody's got drum and bass blasting out of a car, and then somebody's bouncing on there's a flipping people eating a hot dog, and it's just all this chaos. And like my friend who I took last week, he says, I never knew things happened on a Sunday before 10 a.m. and it's 6 a.m. and people are running around doing all sorts. And I said, I love that because people are everyone's like great characters. And I do love the charity shops. I think sometimes when I make that content, I feel less like I'm just enjoying the experience of a charity shop, and I feel like undercover boss a bit. Like when I'm highlighting the price, I feel like I'm there to go, oh, this is this. Whereas I just like to show people what's in a charity shop. But if I'm honest, car boots are way more fun because it's actually people selling their own stuff. You can smell the traders from the actual sellers. And to be honest with you, a load of the traders, I'll go to a car boot and they're like, seen you on TikTok, and it's just it's good energy.
Yeah, I love car boots as well. Still my favorite out of everything. Out of charity shops, wholesale, picking on private
as well.
Yeah, we're quite lucky. There's 2 car boots. One's a mile away from us, but it's massive. In Stafford Town Centre, and if we go the correct way through the entrance, it would take us ages to get there, but we can go just through one country lane from literally our house, from one country lane to the back entrance. They don't mind us sneaking in that way, and it takes me like 3 minutes.
Oh yeah, mate, that's a loophole. Hold of that one. Yeah,
it would take me 20 minutes to go the other way, round the one way through the town centre. So I'm pretty jammy there. And then I still love car boots, although my best finds ever are from car boots, but they're consistent and you can make money on them. And like you say, it serves a few purposes. You can make some good content, meet some new people, because this can be quite solitary, can't it, this job? So you can
very solitary, self-employment and working in this capacity. You basically just sat on computers uploading products. Like it's an isolated way of existence. It's been, I think, since like going from having a big team of people to having less people, it's been definitely a remembered thing of like, wow, like that's why I like going out to car boots. So I just have like a lot of interactions with similar people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 41 now, and I've been seeing the same faces at the car boot since I was about 7 years old.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, my nan passed away a couple of years ago, and there's still people who ask about my nan because I used to go with my nan. And they would always say, oh, how's your nan, And I'm like, oh, I have to tell you, she passed away. But she went for like 65 years. Everybody knew her. And some people who lived. Yeah, she was into making crafts and stuff. But there's some people who like live at the car boots every single Saturday and Sunday, and it's good hustle money, makes you a bit of extra fun money for holidays and stuff, isn't it?
I think it's like, to be honest with you, I think it's like a reseller's night out that's in the daytime because like, if you look at the perspective of it, like, most of the time I'll go there and see lots of similar minded people who are buying and selling. And I guess you take away the animosity that I would have had back in the day, going to a car boot, knowing that it's territorial. You don't even have to take it many years ago. A few years ago, just going to the odd one and being like, shit, sorry, I don't want to swear, but like that Johnny guy, he's gone and got like, I can see he's like looking at a band tee, and that animosity sits in. Whereas now it's like, no, the game is like, it's just what's going to happen and what are we all going to experience. But I'm fortunate in that scope because it's not my means of what I do in terms of like my business model. It's actually more what I want to do is the recreation side of content making through education, like showing people car boots are great. You really, if you got one close, really got to try one.
Yeah, for me, it's the fun end of the business. Like, I would rather go to a car boot sale on a Sunday morning than an epic rave out with the missus on a Saturday night.
Retweet, honestly.
Yeah. If we went out and we got in at 2:00, I'd be absolutely gutted if I missed the car boot on the Sunday. It's way more important.
Say, mate, it's been pissing it down, and I'm like, the amount of people that messaged me this morning went, "What car boot did you go to?" And I went, "Well, I'm not sure. Half of them are underwater around where we are in the East Midlands." So,
yeah, you've got a lot of good ones there in the East Midlands, haven't you? We used to go to one in Derby, a massive one, but I can't remember what it's called. What's it called?
Is it Measham or Ripley?
Ripley, yeah, Ripley. Yeah.
Giant on a Saturday. Yeah.
A lot of good ones in East Midlands. I wanted to touch on something you mentioned earlier on, because you just said you're buying from the car boot as the fun part. So I've watched you on Tilt. It's something I downloaded and watched, but I don't think I've ever bought anything from there. I ended up doing Whatnot instead. But I love your setup and your process on Tilt with your long benches. You got your cameras and you've got your dust buckets with stock coming off racks, and you're throwing it into the bucket. It seems like fast paced process, really professional. How long have you been selling online, like as an auction?
Probably in the last 8 to 10 months. In the last 8 to 10 months I've been doing it. And I will be totally honest with you, it was probably in a similar stroke of where I was thinking going models to no models, in a sense of going from uploading through a means of your own website to essentially going, right, you're selling this in an auction base. Do you want to sell it for £1? Do you want to, whatever you're starting it? And for the longest point, it's been like an exclusive wholesale experience. However, I think that one of the things that I realized was so good about it is, as wanting to get into YouTube, as wanting to make content, what's the best way to get free expertise all the time is to do a way of selling where you're on the camera all the time. And I still sit with this, and there's probably people that do sit with this. I sit in this way where if somebody's watching something, it's entertainment, but you value the time that somebody spends. This podcast right now, if this is dynamic and listenable and enjoyable, somebody's going to listen to it, enjoy the whole process of it. If it's not, if it's a lot of like unarticulated, unenjoyable listening, like someone's going to go, well, they've not got chemistry, this isn't even funny, and it's not a good like sense. Where I think live streams sit in the same capacity. It's like some people watch and they go, this stream's great. And I love the fact that I would much rather like engage with 10 people and get 0 sales than get 10 sales and get 0 people, because the people are what matters. And I think one of the most interesting things I'm learning about selling in the last 12 months is the community is really that customer over currency. If you get right community, people will support you in all capacities. And Tilt is one of the most important places to do that. And I know obviously the one that you mentioned that I'm not going to mention due to my affiliation and just because of the situation, nature of it. However, the whole live streaming as whatever platform you're on is opening a whole new interactive way of selling. It's very, very fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And there's some really good sellers in there. I think it's interesting. It must be very difficult to decide which one you go to. And I don't know which one will win if it is a race. I think there's space for both of them.
I'm going to quote something. I'm going to quote those. A lower mindset is to compete and a higher mindset is to collaborate. So those that want to like, unfortunately, you pick one or the other. For me, Whatnot is the eBay of live selling, whereas Tilt is what Depop did. It's dedicated purely for fashion, streetwear, clothing, and Whatnot is about like, you know, Pokemon cards and other things. They're two totally different markets. It's just that unfortunately, I know that they sit in a very close competition, and I just think that is just the nature of business. If it comes back to when I was on ASOS Marketplace, lots of people at the same time that were trying to do the same thing, lots of like pulling the rug under people's feet. I would remember times taking stock from someone going, I'll take the stuff that he wants, blocking people. It can get a bit catty and scatty. And honestly, I'm 31 and coming to this point now where like I had to face that like exclusivity of like, right, you pick a platform, and I would just thought it's business. I will distribute where it's necessary. But unfortunately, live streaming isn't fixated in that position now. And I think that's because of how powerful a community you build on a platform is. That's the real value. It's not how many sales you've got, it's how many people come to watch you.
Yeah, definitely. It's I actually feel that when I'm on Tilt, it's a bit more specialist. The sellers they tend to know more what they're on about. Whereas, and I don't want to say anything bad about Whatnot, but I do feel, there's a lot of mums selling the baby clothes from the living room type stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
they're not into fashion.
No, and this also I think this comes down to like the interest of an entry point. So that's a real fascinating like lead actually. So one of the things I noticed in the last, say, 2 months from my TikTok presence is the amount of mums that are interested in selling, the amount of this side hustle mum nature. And I'm all for it. As somebody who, like, my favorite person is my mom. Like, that's the person who I've like, who's like really like been there when I've needed, and like, we're like that strong community of it. There's this presence of people, these mums that are working from home. Me in that position, I guess from the outside. So I know I've not spoke about it yet, but I'm actually like recently partnered as a mentor with Tilt. So to help people do this. So like essentially like being comfortable on the camera, making this feel like this is the first time we've had a conversation, but it feels natural and comfortable because there's the camera isn't an issue to me. This is just a conversation with you and other people listen to things. And that's one of the biggest things I think from the live stream is like you say, like, you can go on whatever platform and you might see that mum and she looks like she's in the kitchen and she's going, Simon, pull that down. Well, she's there like holding up a quick baby clothes. No, not yet. And again, it comes down to people who are at home, working from home. One of the biggest things I said to myself is I don't make my workplace my home space. And I learned that from having my office in my bedroom. And I really had learning these lessons fast helped me understand that. Obviously, not everybody can be in a position to have their own space, but some sort of separation to where you live, i.e. you don't want to hear the tumble dryer going on in the background whilst you're trying to run an auction. I think that's one of the lines I hope to help people with. Yeah,
and everyone starts somewhere, I guess, don't they? But so tell me about Gully then. Do you ever really turn off? Because you're busy.
Yes. But you know what my biggest thing is? What am I turning off to do? So this is probably the reason. I mean, the people, and this is me inverted commas, the people that are seen as successful or the people that are seen to like be big achievers, they probably either have a small circle, or you can see like, I'm on my own. I live on my own. I live in some solitude outside of living in solitude and that. And it's because this way of living isn't for everybody. Not everybody wants to sort of be affiliated with this way of living. And the reality is I work all the time, but I'm trying to learn a balance between the personal life. So took a lot of pride points when certain situations in life, maybe relationships, all these things change, to kind of take accountability for the me that I didn't see, which was like that inner me, which is like, let me go and take some mindful counseling. Let me go and, and that's something that I still do on a weekly basis. I call it that mental MOT. It's like, I've got to check in with where my head's at. And the answer, in short, it's like, no, I don't switch off, but I'm learning what I would be switching off for as a means of like, just getting to know people, taking the time out of my own bubble to enter other people's bubbles. And, sometimes we get our fingers burnt with it. Sometimes we don't. We have to explore all avenues to know what that avenue is going to lead to. And yeah, work in progress is what I'd say. It's been about a 12-year work in progress, but we'll give it 10 more years, probably get there.
It's hard, isn't it, when you're self-employed to ever turn off? There's always going to be a little bit of you responding to emails or checking a price and something or sourcing or
always. Everything is instantaneous. I'll be honest with you, this is one of the reasons why like it's super chaotic. So I used to have all of the sound effects on my phone, so I would have like the Shopify ping ping and all the Depops and all this. Now like I got to the point where I said I'm only going to have it on Black Friday as like that little bit of dopamine hit. And there was one time when I think we had 5,500 items sold in one day on Black Friday. Did over 20 grand, absolutely insane, all off secondhand and vintage. But it was like ping, 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 ping. But that is the way that you'll burn out, is by being in the notifications, being in this. To a point now, I don't really have social media platforms on my own personal phone. I keep it all with my work phone. And I try and, once I've posted my stuff, I try and learn the art of discipline and that, leaving it away. It's like being still in the chaos. There's always going to be somebody viewing your product. There's always going to be something that you can go, I could just change that photo to the front one. Actually, I could actually add that. But you're all gonna do it at some point anyway. It's kind of like slowing that down, and again, being still in the chaos. That chaos is existing, but just being still within it.
Yeah, and appreciating some time away from work. I know what you mean. So what you've done all these different types of selling. Then, is there any one that you're leaning towards as a favorite, or you're happy spinning all these plates and juggling them all?
The way, in total transparency, I would love to become this is the conversation I've had with the guys at Tilt. I would like to lead by more of an example. And the reason why I brought out the Gully bundles was to actually work alongside the mentoring. A lot of, and I get how things work, and I understand how people's perceptions are, where they go, like, I literally had a comment that I had to comment before this. They went, if they were all worth that, you would just sell them. And it's like, but if you've done it for 12 years, you'd understand that there are other ways that you can sell as a means of generating a sustainable business, but alongside something else. You know, you give me 10 seconds, I can't tell you my whole story. You give me 10 hours, I might get to there. But like, unfortunately, how much time do people want to listen before they make their dismissive thought? I really want to aim towards pioneering people in that way of like, look, if people find that my content inspires them, how can I maximize and help that inspiration for them? You know, like one thing I've done, which is something I won't obviously plug by being here, but hopefully opening up like affordable video courses for people who want to, like, you know, you want to buy this small like video that's going to be like whatever long, and just give you like a running on the outside of it for a price that's not going to cost you the earth. Like, I want to help the understanding for everybody whilst being one option for buying. And I never say that I'm the cheapest with my stock or supply. I'm very transparent, but it comes back to, are you doing secondhand because you want to be sustainable, or are you doing secondhand because it's a trend? Because you like just buying it for a trend. I'm here because I've learned over years that it's about making something sustainable. And if one by one person at a time can get inspired by that, that's a success.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think if anyone could do a kind of mentor thing in the UK, because I don't know of any, I reckon you could probably do it. There's a bloke on every corner saying he's a mentor and a guru in America for something. But
yeah.
As far as resellers concerned in the UK, whether it's reselling Lego or reselling clothes, it's all the same, just selling. I reckon you could probably get away with it. You've got the followers, you've got the right amount of followers to start it up, and you've got, what have you got? Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon.
That's not what I've got. That what I've got at the moment, I guess, from sort of streams that you could look at on the surface of TikTok, is the TikTok's content creation fund, the Gully Garms, the bundles, the consultancy that I do, the Tilt live stream, the kilo sales, the laundrette, and those ones in the capacity at the moment.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a lot, but it comes down to the same thing. Is it's like the reason why I've not executed, like run into the course and the idea, like it's there as an idea that I'm building at the moment. So it's like literally something I've got to test out. Is like 25 quid. There's a waiting list. If people sign up and they want it, I'll do it. If they don't, I'll probably still do it, because it doesn't matter if it's 10. If it's going to help 10 people, it's going to help 10 people. And I tell you right now, Xander, being in this side of the business where you've worked with people who are still generating like £1 million plus a year, the conversations I have around when I say I'm going to do a £25 video is people going, why are you not putting like 3 more zeros at the end of that per person? And it's because if it can be inclusive for more rather than exclusive for a few, then it actually helps more people. And the price on that is just to go, I live in an abundant state, but there gets to a point when you go, I'm giving out advice and stuff, but to some extent, there's got to be value put back on me. And all of this is like, you know, like I say, sold over 1 million items on the internet, and it's not a flex, it's just a fact. It's what happened. And I think some people might want to know how I did that. Some people might go, I don't care. Either way, that's happened. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. It's something I've never thought about it, because I've only just come on social media. I'm not as confident as I probably look sometimes. But with 16 years experience, I probably could do a video. But who wants to listen to Stokey all day? Whereas at least you speak properly. So I
think you might be in your head about that, but I totally get the perspective. I guess it's what calls to you, right? Would you be somebody that sees somebody doing something and goes, oh, that's what he's doing that, so I do that? For me, I don't sit in that pool. I really do what I want, and it's what, and I know this is probably more of a meditative thing. it's what I feel like the universe internally is like what I'm supposed to do. Like there's some, I feel like this whole content is coming to this point. This feels like what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, say what you want and your audience will find you. That's what they say, don't they? But yeah, some people don't like you. Some people will like you. They'll stick with you. That's when they hit the subscribe, and that's how you find your audience.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if people don't like you along the way, then you're doing something right because you're gaining growth, aren't you? And a lot of the time, you've got to take things with a pinch of salt. I take a real good one from my auntie that's probably been passed through my mum, which is just give things the attention they deserve, whether it's somebody that doesn't like you, whether it's somebody that you might be in competition with. Give that the attention it deserves. If you think it deserves like an hour of your time worrying about it and stressing about it, then put that hour there. But what's the outcome of it? I will be really honest with you. A meditative life practice allows me to sit in the most mentally strong and with total clarity to what I do. I'm good, and it's good to be in that state of being.
I like it. We're getting deep. I think I might have to create a good title based around this.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's go back to some fashion stuff, just because these are some questions I wrote down for everybody. You've been in this game. Obviously, you're a fashionable dude. You like your stuff. You've definitely got a style.
Scruffy style, but it's style,
yeah, it's cool. Is there any things in the fashion industry that you can't stand at the moment? And then we'll go to the positive spin on that you're absolutely loving.
Now, if I was to say genuinely what I don't, and this is only because of where I've come from, and I try not to be too brand specific. Now, I know you like your Carhartt, and you might know what my opinion is on that. And again, this is the beauty with the perspective and opinion is it's totally, I have no judgment on what anybody would choose to do. For me, seeing where things were, I remember Carhartt being something you could buy in Screwfix for 20 quid. Used to buy them for like £5-6 a jacket. Selling them 10 years ago and trying my hardest not to be that senile 30-year-old bloke that goes, oh, everybody's selling the stuff I sold 10 years ago. But I don't like jumping on stuff when it's in the green lights. I don't like getting on behind stuff when everybody's doing it. Because for me, it just feels like we're all like all these marbles trying to get like down this one hole and we're trying to scramble and go, look, we're all doing the same thing. I don't have a distaste to it. Like I literally picked up a Carhartt sweatshirt the other day because it was £7. Like the thing is where I sit is it's like it's still a profitable brand and you would be silly not to get it in that capacity. But as something that I'm represented by, I don't like things that have hype. It's so like sounds like real like, oh, I like things that are unconventional, but I do. No. That's what I like about it. Like, I mean, I don't have honestly, I think from seeing years of different people express themselves in different ways, there's nothing that comes to me so fast because now my whole thing is being in more of a like sustainable way. So like if I talk badly on anything, I'm essentially contributing to the problem, which is somebody goes, oh, right, so you don't like it. So everyone thinks it's shit, should just go in the land. It's like, we've got to look at ways to place everything that's already been made, unfortunately.
No, 100%. I agree with you on everything you've said there. I like it. But once the hype machine takes control of something and it kind of loses its shine and it's just not cool anymore. But every man and his dog wants a Carhartt jacket. And I do think to myself sometimes, oh, I need to find something different. But
if you like it, and this is the thing, I'll be honest with you, they are well made. Like they are well-made products. It's the same way where like you look at North Face, you look at the Gore-Tex and these materials, as you know, with the outerwear. Like North Face was a great brand for many years. They never stop exploring the whole ethos of it, the way that it's made, like the whole purpose and premise of it. And then you know it needs to stay relevant, so it does collabs with people like Supreme. It brings out a nupsy North Face that like explodes the price, explodes the perspective, but also loses sight of what it was there to do. And I think that's the thing. It's like you can't stop Justin Bieber wearing a Carhartt jacket. You can't stop the price going up as a result. But it's not for me where its initial price point was and what it was there to do. And again, if something was available on Screwfix for 20 quid and now a supplier is trying to charge me £35 for a Detroit style jacket at wholesale, then there's a problem from my perspective.
100%. I was buying Patagonia when it was cheap, and I was buying it at £4 a piece now. And now there's UK distributor for wholesale. Yeah, I was cheap, man, like 10 years ago. And now a guy approached me actually 2 or 3 days ago. I think what day were we on? Sunday. On Friday, a guy approached me and he was trying. This is from Karachi, and he's trying to send me secondhand fleeces for 25 quid. And I'm like,
what, for retail?
You know, well, yeah, I said this isn't a wholesale price. This is a retail price. And he's like, oh, brother, I'm going to do you a deal. And I'm like, it's no deal. Yeah.
No, and I'll be honest, without firing smoke at too many of the brands that people love, Stussy or Stussy or however you want to say it, that is another one that for me, I saw a wholesaler selling them for £25 a t-shirt, and it just made me think it's not even wholesale. From the time that I spent within there and within the rag houses in America, it's a very hard to source item, but
and it's massively faked. Yeah, I've got one. So this is a recent one. So I've been thinking about this. I looked at my questions I'd made, and I was thinking about one. And my missus says this is wrong because it keeps them looking nice. But I hate it when people leave stickers on caps. You know what I mean? As soon as you buy a cap, just take the sticker off.
Yeah.
And then they get sun faded because you've worn it for 3 years, and you take the sticker off one day, and it's darker on the circle than it should be. And I'm like, that's ruined it.
What is the? I never understood that. Why did they do that?
I don't know. I mean, it's usually a hologram sticker, so it says like baseball or something or NBA.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I hadn't even thought from the perspective of it like fading the iron, but yeah, I've seen so many of them. It looks like a little miniature teacup's been sat on it for a few years or something. Like, I'm not for that style. I sit with this sort of just very like the sort of curved dad caps, the just casual stuff, the comfort, not wearing.
Oh yeah, they're always like this, aren't they?
Always, yeah, they're always like that. They look like absolutely wild. Just finishing around the back, the cowboy out. But yeah, I like the bent bits like that.
And the other one that comes to mind recently is, you know, when people buy trainers and they've got a kind of like plastic tag on them, but people are walking around and leave them on.
Yeah.
And I always think, aren't you meant to cut that off? But it's fashion now.
Yeah, this is another thing about the whole fashion thing. I guess probably like stepping out of like being like using models. There was a point when it's staying on the momentum of fashion is very, very hard. And at some point, I would have tried to like create trends where we did like back in 2013. I brought back like mohair cardigans and suede bombers on ASOS, and then people started to sell them and things. But really keeping up with fashion trends is like one of the most like it's trying to catch like gas in thin air. It's like it's constantly going to be something that develops into and evolves into something else. I genuinely think like the best thing about fashion is making like it your own, like not focusing and fixating on brands and styles, just finding something cool and making it cool.
Yeah, definitely. So I've always thought this. I don't think I've shared it before online, but I think the people who can sell unbranded stuff, and they understand tag words, they understand the correct terminology in fashion, they can sell anything. And they're true vintage or true fashion sellers. And then the people who just rely on the brands, who are it's like bottom feeding off the market because the brand recognition is always there. You know, like you don't have to be clever to go and buy something from Nike, a Nike outlet, and sell it online. You just have to be there at the right time. And
you're the middleman to the brand.
Yeah, you like you have to submit to the brand. If they make a big mistake, just like Balenciaga did, you know, Balenciaga's stocks dropped from up there down to here in like 2 weeks when we found, and all these people who bought this really nice Balenciaga gear, what are they going to do with it? They can probably barely get their money back. Whereas, you know, it's nice when you see someone just like yourself who can make a good living off selling some unbranded stuff as well. That's true. That's real vintage selling, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's honestly one video at a time. That's what I'm trying to educate the internet about. That people think there was, and I don't like to embark on this one. I tried to do this from a totally like honest way, but like somebody said yesterday, like must have done a bundle and went, you can't get 100 quid for that. And I sold a Superdry jacket for £35 yesterday. I sold like Reselling, like things that you would go, how have you sold that for that? Because I know how to sell and I've sold flipping loads and I understand how to do it. And I mean this with respect. If I'm trying to help other people, it's in that scope. The same way with you mentioning brands is the same way I see platforms. And that's why I think you need to create your own identity where it's like, if Depop decides or if Vinted decides tomorrow, actually, yeah, you're allowed 50 products up and it's gone up to 10% commission. How many people are going to be like headless chickens going, oh my God, like, but Vinted was free and all this. It's not a commercialized platform. yes, I did this Vinted challenge and some people called it out on it. My whole thing was a little bit tailored to, I will reinvest it back in the same way I did my business. But the reason why I stopped it is because I capped it before I hit the 1,000 turnover. So I actually am very close to that. And I stopped it before then, because otherwise then you are embarking on some sort of commercialization and advertising it the wrong way. But selling unbranded is about like, finding your flair with your identity with it. If you just want to like assimilate yourself to brands, you're never going to look out the window and see if there's anything else out there.
Yeah, it's like when everybody says, "Oh, you're from England. Do you live near London?" It's almost like saying as if London's the only place in England.
Yeah.
There's just so much more. I wanted to ask you about, so your fashion. If you mentioned when we were chatting on WhatsApp, if you bought any Grail pieces to show off?
I've got 3 behind me. Do you want to see them now? I've got, like I said, I'll be honest with you. The annoying thing is, Andrew, is most of my clothes are at Gully. Like my wardrobe is just the vintage clothes right now. But I saved 3. Now I'll show you one that I've not worn for a while, but is probably my favorite shirt that I found from a patterned bundle, and it was this all over Playboy one. If you can see that.
Oh yeah, I like the pattern. It's cool.
Yeah,
very Y2K.
You what?
Is it a bit Y2K that?
Yeah, I mean, I got it from when we used to get bales and we'd get it in specific things like pattern shirts. It came in. I've been still waiting to wear it at a carboot because I think it would turn some heads. I think it would turn a lot of specific heads, but I think that one.
Yeah, it's cool. Love it.
That one, and then this one I feel like you'd probably like more. This is one I found recently, but I just like this because I love these old, like this Black Sabbath t-shirt with like absolutely battered. How I like to wear it. Where's the camera? That is. Just a real nice piece like that. I should have brought back this.
That's the type of thing we put in our shop. That is definitely for the shop.
I thought, did you see the 1991 OG Iced Tea t-shirt I had on that video?
Yeah. Now, did you? Well, but I never saw how you sold that.
I haven't sold it yet. Did you?
That's right.
My fingers burnt doing the 99p challenge. That's one of the annoying things about doing content. You tell the internet to go on eBay. The person that won it basically just bid it up and then did a runner. That doesn't matter. This is my favorite piece I've probably ever got, and this is a 2XL. This is one that you've seen Kanye West probably wearing. It's a 2XL Ralph Lauren, the bear one, the big bear. This was a bit of a bigger bloke, and 2XL actually makes it look like a dress. But this is honestly like one of my favorite pieces. It's one that will never leave me, and it's when I was importing from Miami back in 2015. And we used to. What's that? Oh,
it's an older tag, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an older navy tag. It's a hand knit as well, so you don't really see the hand knits.
Nice.
You don't see this, and you wouldn't see many of them about.
I love the polo stuff. I've only just got into polo myself. It's one of the. Really? I always thought it was quite preppy, and now I'm obviously we've sold it all. Can you remember back in the day when we were getting 40 quid for Ralph Lauren shirts, long sleeve shirts? You can't get 10 quid for them now.
You know what? Get on live streaming, and I will convince you. This is one of the things I'm going to do. But no, I want to with Ralph Lauren. I think what's really interesting about the culture or the subculture of Ralph Lauren is like you have this preppy like nature that's like this equestrian wear of like the polo, the horse. But then you've got artists like Chicago's Chief Keef representing the big horse. You've got this real massive New York association with Ralph Lauren. There's a documentary about like the 90s culture of Ralph Lauren. And like, you know, Tommy Hilfiger being a brand also in New York, he got under the firing line a bit as, you know, he got some accusations that he had to try and rectify in the 90s on Oprah about this representation of the brand. And I guess it's like being in somewhere like New York coming up where it was definitely more of a diverse culture. It's not like a specific one type of person. I think like these brands were a lot more inclusive of everything. I think it's just that when you start a brand, the best way to achieve the best price is probably to go with the most prolific prep sort of thing.
Yeah. There's definitely that. There's way more to it than just the preppy stuff we see in the high street shops. When you scratch the surface, I've realised Polo's got some really cool, especially the vintage older stuff. I'm loving it. Yeah. I'm really liking the fishing type stuff with all the angling. And, yeah, man, it's dead cool. I mean, I keep seeing pieces I want, but you know what it's like. I can't go and spend 250 quid on a jacket anymore. I always wait till I'm going to.
Website, you mean?
Well, I'm looking for a vintage one. But
okay.
you know what? I never want to buy anything that I've seen for full price, because I always think one day I'll find something similar in the wild for 50p.
Yes.
Yeah, and then to go.
Paid all of that, you'd be flipping, kicking yourself, going, "Oh no, I've paid like 500 times more."
I'm in my Eloise's office today, and she's banging into Italian fashion stuff like Gucci and Fendi and what else is there? It's not my type of thing at all. I can appreciate the quality and stuff, but I always think it's insane that like £1,000 for a handbag or £2,000 for a handbag. And I always think, imagine how much vintage I can buy for that, and it does the same thing.
Not, especially with the carboot, a lot. You feel a van load with it,
exactly. Yeah, but I would much rather buy something for £1 at the car boot than to go and spend £100 in Harrods on a t-shirt. It just doesn't feel right to me. I don't know about you.
No, exactly. And the beauty, the sort of funny irony with things is you can have something where you make sales for sales, and like you get to a point where you're making loads of sales, but there's not a dopamine hit that will be as good as finding something that you know has the value and potential to be more, and that person is selling it. Like, finding something that's worth a couple £100 for £1. No amount of sales can beat or match that feeling, because that's really where the interest starts from it.
Yeah, it's because we're getting the dopamine hit constantly from shopping, aren't we? That's the thing. Yeah, it's
shopping or someone buying. As soon as somebody buys it and you see a sale, and you can't say, you wouldn't see a sale come through and go, "Oh, for goodness sake." I mean, I have with the Vinted challenge, because people feel like they're doing it to spite me now, so that I keep making these Vinted videos. But all in all, it's a good dopamine hit. Yeah,
your content is, you're constantly doing something new. You've got challenges. I wanted to ask you about this. Do you, and I know you're very sporadic the way you do things, like spontaneous, I mean.
Yeah.
But have you got a plan, though, for like something you're going to be doing next month? Because you're putting a lot of stuff out. Or is it more one day do you wake up and think, that'll be a good idea, and then 2 hours later you made a video?
So I think this honestly comes down to this present moment. Like a lot of this, like meditative finding in the last, like, I'm planting seeds and not expecting all of the plants to grow. I'm just knowing that if I keep putting it, like the seed of the eBay challenge, I put the plant out, sold my Birkenstocks, that was great, but the other one backfired. So we just move on with other ones. We adapt and evolve. Like, the plan is to keep putting out new ideas, and from them new ideas, reacting to some part of my creative mind that goes, that's a good attachment. Like, I could probably tell you the next 10 ideas that come to my head very quickly, and it wouldn't matter if you took them, because tomorrow I'll think of another 10. I don't, but this comes down to when you said earlier on, like, do you take time off? This is the reality of being in it all the time, is the ideas stem from living in very much this constant bubble of content. Like, I feel pressure from it, but I do strive under the pressure of it.
Yeah, you can tell you're obviously very creative, and I think that massively helps you, doesn't it, with selling vintage clothing? Not just the content, but you're coming up with new ideas to present it, and that builds a following, and it can only snowball into something better each time. But sometimes a crap idea can just end, and you can just find something new. And as long as it keeps you, on that horse, then something else will come along at some point.
Yeah. And it's whatever happens. I could post a video today and it could get 1 million views. I could post a video and it will get 10 views. The reaction from me has to be the same regardless. It comes back to that, still in the chaos. If I wake up and tomorrow, and let's be honest, it happens being in the content situation. Wake up and you see a video. I did one with Marge the other day and it had like 700,000 views, and it was just us going to TK Maxx. I didn't even want to do it. It was Marge. She went, film this, people will love this. And me and her dynamic runs with it. But those little things that happen, like, bloody hell, 700,000 people is a lot of people, but the next video could flop. I think it's not worrying about what the outcome of that is, and just worrying about what the output you're putting out is. I have three things, which is I have to have purpose and give purpose. I have to be authentic with what I do, and I have to enjoy it. And the reason why I like things that I stop is because I don't enjoy it, and I have to find that enjoyment from it. If I don't enjoy what I do and it feels too much like work, the reality is I actually have a job. Like, my job is what I do as a reseller, and like the content is my way of like exploring an industry I would like to know more about and hopefully be a part of as an income more.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I'm struggling with those boundaries at the moment. I'm doing so many little things. And they all kind of make you a little bit of an income, but we all know that deep down reselling clothes is where the majority of the income comes from.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not about money. Sometimes it's just about enjoyment. I don't play rugby anymore. I don't do any MMA or anything. I don't go boozing at the pub. I need a little kind of outlet for my energy and creativity. And I'm finding that YouTube and all this TikTok malarkey is a really good way for me, especially when you get to 41, because it's hard to kind of, at 41 years old, pick up a bunch of new friends. I certainly can't go for a dog walk and just start talking to the next bloke and go, "How's it going, mate?" You know,
why not?
without getting well,
why not?
You probably run away. But
You know,
TikTok, go on.
Go on.
I was going to say TikTok. Immediately, people either like you or they dislike it, and you know those people that kind of, with all the correct hashtags and keywords, they come into the shop on a regular basis and say, "Oh, I've seen you on TikTok," and they'll buy something, and you become friends with them and talking to them. And some of them are just average Joes who are doing all them old things I used to do, like rugby and fighting and the pub. But then there's other people who are fashion students and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm really into vintage denim and we know you sell jeans." And they'll talk to you for an hour about jeans. And everybody's different. And I'm finding this outlet of talking online. It's like a new lease of life in a way. You're never too old, are you?
No, wait till you discover talking to a phone in public, because that is the most freeing thing anybody could do. You know, to a point, honestly, I walk into a coffee shop. You should see some of the YouTube videos. I walk into a coffee shop just talking to my phone like I'm talking to myself, but I'll turn around and talk to everybody the exact same. Nobody looks at me and is like, "Oh God, this guy," because I know the boundaries of like where to not be irritating. I'm not actually in people's face trying to put them on camera. I think most of the time what I see is when somebody doesn't like what you do, or whether it was somebody that didn't like it, I think it's more a projection of what they don't like about their own self with what it is. Like if you are making content and being the right person, or like you say, you're trying to find the hobby that, it's like a busman's holiday, isn't it? It's like the hobby is watching content about clothing rather than doing the reselling. It's still within the same field. So like things for me, I'm the same as you. I go to the gym every day. I'll go to this after this, but like used to swim a lot, do hot yoga and things. And try and like you say, you try and find a balance where you go, "No, I'm not just the guy that does the clothing. No, I'm not just the guy that does this. I am actually," you go, "You don't know about this side." Like you say, the MMA side and the rugby side, this is my other thing. But the reality of like life is that we get all caught up in it, and that just molds into social media, which hold it at a distance a little bit sometimes. I think sometimes hold it at a little bit of a distance, and remember that we're living outside of our phones as well.
Yeah, you are natural at that. I have noticed you on your phone, and it's kind of like you're tilting it in a way so it doesn't get people's face in. So you can't really offend them, can you? But you're charming. It's easy. It does come across very natural. I think I might try it though. Take your advice. I think I might
have a go. Honestly, I mean, the thing, like, when I really want to show you like the perspective, but this is the thing that I would love someone to do, would be to film, like, because when I'm at the carboot, it's like, I know a lot of people, it's the GoPro, isn't it? And it feels a little bit undercover fed meets trading standards to me, but I totally get that that's a comfortable way of doing it without people knowing that you're filming, even though that they can see it. But I get it. Like everyone, each to their own. I bought one the other day and it did not connect with me. I think I broke it. I was like, I don't like this, because I'm so used to a set way. But talking to like again, when you've worked with cameras, worked with filming so long, it's just like, I know where I need to sit in a line that's going to meet the expectations of everybody. As long as I don't get anybody in the camera that doesn't want to be in there, if somebody's voice in it, they're talking to me and I'm filming in a public space, and the content comes from a good place. If it can be like, again, sometimes you've got to say something a little bit that's a little bit funny in a way where people go, that's funny, because you're not trying to be too polite all the time, but you're trying to be, nice about it. Like a guy that was at the car boot a few months ago, and he said, "I don't want to be on camera." And I instantly was like, "I'm not filming you anyway, but that's fine." And then I said to him, I was like, "What's the price of the stuff?" And he went, "Varies." And it was quite like, not demonstrative, but it was very like hostile environment. I was just like, okay, this is giving me a reaction that I don't like internally. But it was like, the items were like up to like 50, 60 quid. And then I went on to make a video just about like the mindset behind someone selling something for 60 quid at a car boot that's never sold online. And, I don't like putting out bad energy and like a bad feelings and thoughts. I like to rise above it all and give things the attention they deserve, really.
Yeah, there's barriers, isn't there? Like some people immediately will say, "Oh, you're filming me, I don't want to sell to you." But if he was nice to you and asked you questions, you probably are walking around with more money than most people at that car boot, because we're dealers. You probably would have sold something. He would have sold something to you. And if he just lowered his barriers, it would have made a sale. Yeah.
It's the same way that I go into the charity shop, right? And I always see this as the perspective, like you're saying about with like barriers and boundaries, right? On the surface, there's two ways I can go into a charity shop. I can go in with my hood up, which is allowed and legal, filming myself and looking, not ingratiating or talking to anybody. But my thing is like, and I know some people probably think it's gimmicky, but it's a way to become like, how you doing, my love? You okay? It smiles. And instantly, a middle-aged or an older woman that's seeing a young bloke that, to some degree, unfortunately, there can be a perspective where it's like, there's that thought in people's minds. It's nice to go, I'm okay. And smile and be friendly, smile at the world, and the world just smiles back. And you can't hate somebody that's smiling all the time.
No, definitely not, mate. Right, I've got 2 little games for you.
Let's do it,
because we're getting close to the end. So I've been thinking about the way of doing this, and everybody seems to be quite suspenseful till this moment. And the high score out of the 5 we've got is 2, and he's had a shop for 8 years. The guy who got 2, so he's pretty abysmal.
Hey, I don't know. I might get none. We'll know where my expertise sits right now.
But I've got a good way to loosen you up. So we're going to do some one-word questions just to get you in so you're snappy, so to speak. They're not all vintage related. So, Dickies or Carhartt?
Dickies.
Nike or Adidas?
Nike.
Kit Kat or Club?
Kit Kat.
Favorite takeaway?
Turkish.
Turkish? I've never had a Turkish. Really? Cool. Never had one.
What? So
I know.
Go on.
Might try it. I'll tell you what, I'm going to look for a Turkish restaurant. I'll message you.
Also, can I just show you why I said Kit Kat straight away? I've got a Kit Kat clock right here. I'm looking at me right now. Kit Kat.
There's loads of club flavors that they don't make anymore. From when I was a kid. Yeah, the purple ones, where have they gone? And then the all chocolate blue ones. I don't think they make them anymore.
Do they only just make the orange and greens?
I think so, yeah.
Boy.
Favorite crisp flavor?
Skips.
Prawn cocktail.
Yeah, or Monster Munch pickled onion.
Oh yeah, they're banging.
Yeah.
That's an elite crisp, that is.
Monster Munch.
Yeah. Favorite TV show?
Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah,
All right, that's brilliant. Right then, so let's get to this little game. Guess the prices.
Now, is this prices based on have you found sold comps or have you found?
Yeah, I've done sold comps. I always pick 5 little items, and I try and choose things which are almost relative to stuff that.
How many questions am I allowed to ask? Can I ask the starting price and what time or are you gonna? Am I being it right?
I always do it on eBay, and I just click on the image, so I can't see the sold price. And in all honesty, I can't remember because I did this about half an hour before we started the show. But I can see a little bit of information on the title of the URL, so I can read that out to you. How do you do? It's been a little while, so I can't remember how you share stuff. Share screen.
Your guess is good as mine.
I'll turn the porn off quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, first one. You'll appreciate this one. Okay. You see that?
It's coming up. Hang on. Oh, the Birkies. Where we got them sold on? Oh, no, they're Dior ones. What?
Yeah, Christian Dior. No, love your Birkies. By the way. Yeah, these are always sold eBays just because it's a good standard.
Sorry, sold second hand. Is this are they all second hand sales that you found?
Yeah, this is a second-hand one. I mean, they look in mint condition, though, to be fair. But I always click on used items just for the nature of the show. Do you reckon? I don't know what the size is.
I'm sitting somewhere in between a 175 to 225.
Yeah, I reckon it's a good shout. Yeah, they're used. I've just seen. I think they're women's. Okay.
I think that if I think about women's buying, I think it could sit around lower, but I'd say one. Do I have to say an exact price?
No, that's good. That's fair enough. 10%'s allowed.
Okay, 175 to 225.
Cool. I know.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Right. Okay. That's wild. I didn't even know Birkenstocks did it with Dior. I just thought Dior had took Birkenstocks as in, but I should have known from the sole.
Yeah,
wow.
They're cool though, aren't they? I mean, I wouldn't wear them personally. I'll stick to the originals.
I don't know what what's the sort of buckle saying? It's quite, it's like interesting in
dual.
It's like little harnesses when you're on a roller coaster, like a bungee jump or something. It's a
bit too much, isn't it? Okay.
350, fair enough. Each to their own.
Next one. Yeah. Okay. This one's a bit easier. And you
rough, terrible start.
This will prove that I watch your content as well.
Yeah. Right. What's he gonna get?
There we go.
Ooh.
Nice green jacket.
That looks like one of the flipping Nike Tech trench coats that came out.
Oh shit! You've already seen that.
I would have said, you know what? That was I would say it's around about £35 with the tag, I reckon.
Would you? Oh, okay.
that's a gorgeous jacket though, and that's the thing. I'll be honest with you, I would have said a lot higher than that with new with tags.
I love that feature. Yeah, they're wicked, aren't they? I'm going to get one since I watched your video. I think they're cool.
The Nike Tech ones. They look cool, don't they?
I'm pretty sure this is a women's and with tags. Oh, men's. £35
because it's small. Small sizes are less popular, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's 35 quid, private seller. So he's bought something, I reckon, forgot to take it back so it doesn't fit, and he's selling it on.
I don't know if that 96. I know that with eBay culture, I know if you're less than about 99%, it can always be a bit rocky ground. That'd be the only conclusion I could get there. I'm trying to think what time it ended on. Yeah, cool. I won't look in case you got it up on the screen.
Okay, next one. Once I delete it should be okay. I do trust you.
I'll keep my head down.
Here we go. Nice piece.
Okay. Oh, nice. Reversible aquascutum jacket. Wow. Now, I know the caps have been absolutely off the chain in the last sort of 6 months. Some people have been going for 250 to 3. That is a really nice piece.
Yeah, it is actually good size.
Wow. Can I ask one time, what day did this end on? Did anybody ever ask that question?
No, but it's a good point. If it's an auction, because we could talk about that, couldn't we? I suppose if something finishes at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Monday,
that would because you know how it goes. Some people will go, I'll do that in the morning, I'll put my custom bid on, and then that custom bid never comes around. I will be deadly honest. I am thinking for something like that, it looks like the photos tell me that it is a reseller that's put this one up just because it's on a clearer background. Yeah. I honestly think it's got to be somewhere between 120 to 150. If it's because I know that the caps are popular. If it's more, I need to stop saying aquascutum in these bundles because she's starting to put them in. It's gorgeous. Is it grade A? There's no faults.
Looks wicked to me. I was just thinking, I love aquascutum more than Burberry.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Burberry is it's like in the 90s. Sorry to say it, but it was that sort of like it was such a faked brand, so much so that they had to lock down the whole Nova check. I mean, flipping out, I nearly got sued by Burberry.
You selling it much?
No, it was just that we was imported from a Japanese market, and the lawsuit around it at the time with Burberry was just that they didn't have the understanding of people that knew about the Japanese market on ASOS. I'm going to go for 150 to 200. I'm going to have to, if it's lower than that, I would be shocked.
Okay. Chin strap as well. Nice one. 150 we're saying?
I'm going to say that because I'm going to be shocked if it's a lot more. It's going to be 250, isn't it?
I love how seriously you're taking this.
What do you mean? Half price. So I got double the other one and then half price this one.
To be fair, I did look at a bunch of aquascutum pieces because I know you like your hat, and there were people selling these for 200 quid.
Yeah, because I was going to say that's really, really cheap for that. Wow.
He's a private seller who's very good at taking photographs.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so 0 out of 2. Nice.
Sorry, mate.
It's the taking part that counts, Ben. It's the taking part that counts.
And you And you're easily the most experienced person we've had on here as well.
Yeah, so I think it's only right for me to get 0, to be honest with you, even with me trying. Let's see what the next one is.
Bit of a strange one.
Ooh, Adidas and Palace. This is an interesting one. There was times when I think Palace used to be popular. Is this a sale that's happened recently as well? And it's actually one from... Oh, I wish you could see the other side of that QR tag. I'm pretty sure. What's that, like a 2019, 2021? Palace had a big come up a few years ago, and I don't know where it sits in its position of streetwear as somebody who doesn't sell directly this brand, but Adidas and Palace, thinking about how much this would have been new, probably about 80 to 110. The resale market would have probably sat around 165, maybe. Probably came down quite a lot. I think, I'll be honest with you, that could be like, anyway, I think that could be 50 to 70 quid. I could probably say about 50 to 70. After that aqua scooter one, there's no bloody rules, I don't think.
I know. That's the thing with eBay.
Yeah, this exactly. It's the unknown and the uncertainty. The photos are of somebody who's definitely not a reseller per se, just because the way they've taken some of them shots. If one of these is yours as well, please let me know.
It's not mine. But I think you're right. Like eBay's such a big beast. You can get unprofessional sellers selling stuff way higher than us professional sellers ever could. It's so weird.
That's the thing as well. That's the funny law of it. Sometimes someone can have the worst photos and get the most money, and someone has the best photos and gets the least money. There are no rules. I'm going to lock in at 60 quid. I don't believe that, depending on when this is sold. Oh,
close enough. That's not bad. But yeah, not bad. I would have estimated maybe 50, 60. Must be more desirable.
Yeah, it's just I thought that Palace had sort of had a bit of a drop off, but again, the thing is where I sit, to be honest with you, I don't sit knowing like the sort of in and outs of like all of the streetwear sub ones like the Pata and Palace. I see them all the time, but again, not as interested by it. I am shocked by that price, but then streetwear makes sense.
I have noticed one thing. All of these private sellers, they have, especially ones that are interested in like hype items.
It's awful, 78%.
Yeah, they have bad feedback.
Wow. I feel like I'm on a driving test, taking me down false paths to just like, oh no, you shouldn't have indicated there. This is what you're doing, Xander. You're taking me down a false path.
It looks to me as well as though he's sold it a few times. So 17th of September up there.
Where are you looking?
17th of September up here. And then he'd sold the same one in the same price on the 7 days earlier on the 10th of September. So maybe his bad feedback was because he cancelled an auction, because he sold these Adidas Palace ones for £5.
Oh,
yeah.
That's what I mean.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's even just looking at the way that's titled, not even got the size in the title, lowercase on the first word, lowercase on Palace. Wow. I don't know where to start, but that price, yeah. So 0 out of 3. Nice, you're doing well.
Yeah. Okay, last one. This is the chance to redeem yourself.
Honestly, either way, it's all good. This is good. I like it though.
Right then. Okay, I'll tell you a keyword that I searched for, because we get students after it in the shop in Stafford. Cottage core. It's only from Next, but it's just interesting to me. Girl mentioned to it as on
like super crochet design.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I think because you're pulling out Next and what you said at the start about how Next is a brand that you think is mass produced, I think the price is going to shock me around about 45. And if it's even more than that, I'll be shocked. I would expect that realistically in the market to go for about 20 to 25 tops. But I think you've pulled that out to show me something about it. Crochet is definitely something that's like the intricacy to the work. Lock in 40 quid. Lock in 40 quid on this. I'm not even going to think again on this.
Okay, cool. Yes. Well done, mate.
35. You know what? We have them at the kilo sale. I'm going to start looking through the next items and taking them out.
Sweet, who's
the king of vintage? Who's the winner with 2?
Nighttime vintage. Jonty. Yeah, he got 2. And he's been doing it for 6 years. Yeah, but he's a specialist in like crazy Japanese denim, and Jinkos were popular. And the reason we got onto each other as mates is because I met him on Whatnot, and he was selling jeans for $5. So I private messaged him saying, "Look, mate, you sure you want to sell these for $5? So I'll buy them all off you." And I bought about 30 pieces off in that night, and then we WhatsApped and did some private stuff. And he said, "Look, mate, I buy huge bulks of jeans, but I'm not interested in 501s. I'm interested in other stuff. And the surplus to me is the 501s." I said, "Send them to me. I need to sell 501s all day." Because my average customer is like, say, between 30 and 50-ish. Yeah. And he doesn't want skinnies. He doesn't want crazy baggies with mad patination, or they need to no rips. They need to be in good condition. Our average customer just wants to buy a Fred Perry and a pair of 501s. Yeah.
Where do you position your price on a 501?
The more beaten up they are, if something special that goes online, so anything made in Mexico, Canada, Colombia, USA, Japan, goes in on our website. If something's made in the UK, because Levi's only had a factory for 2 years, I tend to save that. Right. I don't know if anyone else is collecting it, but I just like having UK-made Levi's. So I've got a really nice big pile now that one day I'll do something with. It was in Scotland, Glasgow, and it was only there for 2 years. There isn't a market for it yet, but when you're paying nothing for them, it's nice to collect something. If it's cheap and battered, they go in at 15 quid. But then we sold quite a few pairs yesterday for 40 quid, which were like pristine.
By the way.
Yeah, 40 quid at the shop. Yeah, it's a good price, because we're going to sell them for 40 quid on eBay, but you lose your percentages. You've got the picture post, all the business. But then Fred Perry's is crazy, because we got a lot of subculture, like Scooter Boys and all the mods coming around. We can sell secondhand Fred Perry's for 20 quid. Yeah, and we don't even iron them anymore because we buy in bulk.
Oh,
hanger.
Yeah. Take it
Yeah.
as it is. Well, fair. It's supply and demand. That's the way that it goes. It's so interesting hearing you. I had a conversation with Marge earlier on, who was talking about Levi's, and like, she even says that to us, we see Levi's as like the sub brand, like it's a good brand. But like we even position it like in sort of our B brands compared to the ones that are sort of a little bit worth a bit more. But hearing that sort of price that you get, I must say, it seems like people are holding the price of Levi's a lot more nowadays in certain platforms.
Denim's like cool again. And I love that girls are wearing bell bottoms and stuff. I'm just wondering when people are going to get onto sexy corduroys, when that's going to come cool.
Or just sexy corduroy in general.
Just cords in general. Yeah.
I love cords. I think one of the biggest things that was like made a stigma about it was the fact that it was that like the jumbo cords were designed by like for the old man that sort of sits around at home, and it's like that sort of like relaxed way. Corduroy is comfortable, but do you know what the most comfortable material is for me? Linen. Linen is winning. Linen is
linen is winning. Love that.
It's a bit summery and springy, but like it's a great material. But yeah, corduroy is like, I think we used to get corduroy jeans years ago. It's just funny, like the obvious one. It comes in and it goes around so flipping fast, and there's just it's like constant change.
One thing I'm stuck with now, I'm waiting to come back, and I refuse to sell them cheap. I've got a couple of 100 pairs of G-Star, and they're from like early Y2K, 2002, 2008. And I can't sell them because, I mean, I won't have paid much for them, but they've got to come back 50 quid, surely.
I bet you're going to agree with me on this one as well. Timberland. I have no idea how the old Timberland weatherproof gear, that like Timberland, one of them brands, that's one of my top 5 brands. And I cannot fetch a quid for it half the time. And I think I'm sometimes so shocked that people don't love Timberland as much as I do.
It's good. It's nice quality as well.
It's the same as G-Star. G-Star's such good quality. The G-Star denim, the G-Star raws. Yeah.
The sizing's off a bit strange, but I think it's to do with the social side of fashion. Like now, it's the best time ever to sell a Mantic top or anything pretty green from Liam Gallagher, obviously. But the quality's crap. Pretty green quality is rubbish. But, you know, if all he's got to do is touch another brand and it's popular, whether that be Snow Peak or Clark's footwear, Clark's Originals, you know, and I think that hype machine does do some cool brands like Clark's. English, you know, we should everybody should be wearing Clark's in this country.
But this is you mentioned then just about like the pretty green and about like the quality of it. Now, this is one of the things I did like a little series about knowing the brands with like Marks and Spencer, the Next, and the Fraser Group is one I want to do. Like the Fraser Group owns Pretty Green. It's not owned by like Liam Gallagher anymore. It's like he set the brand up. He had that association to the Parker and all this sort of stuff. And then the Fraser Group is just sieving them out like next to nothing. The underlying thing is that they will be worth more next year, and Pretty Green will be one of them brands that people. I had somebody buy a t-shirt literally from me on Pretty Green last night in Vinted, and they went, I just saw your video about trend brands, and so I thought I'd buy this. And it's like wicked. Like it isn't a lie, it will work, but it's like you said, it's like that quality isn't matched with this sort of like pedestal that it sits on sometimes. And then you look at brands and think G-Star, Timberland, these like real endurance brands that are like made of like made with purpose, made from real like something durable, and yet people just go, I can't be asked to wear them. We're fed up with the 96 jeans. And you think like they will come back. They will.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, otherwise my missus is going to make me sell them for $5 a pair.
Oh no.
I know. Well, mate, I've really enjoyed today. It's fantastic.
Wow, I didn't even clock the time once.
I know.
With shooting off an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get this out in the next day or two. I'll send it to you. But you're proper inspirational to a lot of people, so I think this would be really good to listen to or watch. And you're just natural on camera. I could sit with you and talk for 5 hours. No problem.
Mate, honestly, I really appreciate you giving me the time with everybody on your platform, and vice versa. I can't wait to show people this as well. I like having conversations with like-minded people.
Brilliant, mate. Well, what can we find you doing next? What's coming up next for Gully?
The next thing that's coming with Gully is probably Tilt Takeover. So a lot of what I'll be doing at the minute is pushing this live streaming momentum and movement, and hopefully in trying to help encourage people the understanding of secondhand and how to buy and sell it. So I'd say keep your eyes on Life at Gully on TikTok, but the real project is where Spencer Line on YouTube is going to sit, because we're going to get back to making longer form content with a bit more description.
That's brilliant. I'll put all the links in the description or whatever you call it underneath, so you can catch.
Is this going on YouTube or is it going on?
Yeah, both. We'll do TikTok, YouTube, and Spotify. Yeah.
Oh, magic.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone. If you do get a chance, give us both a like, a follow. Just put some comments on. Even if you don't like us, comment.
Yeah, do it. That's it. That's the narrative.
Yeah,
love it.
We can both take it on the chin, can't we?
100%.
Thanks for your time. I'll catch up with you in a minute. But cheers for everyone for listening.
Appreciate you, mate.
Thanks, Gully. All the best.
Thanks, mate.